are watching our live and rolling coverage of Budget 2025. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is all set to present the Union Budget for fiscal year 25-26 at about 11 o'clock in Lok Sabha. The Finance Minister will discuss budget allocations, expected revenue in the upcoming year, after which the document will be presented in Rajya Sabha. Now, on January 31st, Sitharaman also presented, remember, economic survey. She tabled it in the parliament, which projects India's GDP growth to be between 6.3 to 6.8% in financial year 25. Now, the budget is expected to focus more on agriculture, may introduce tax reforms. Those are the big expectations.
Right.
And which will also include, perhaps, Krishna, phasing out the old tax regime.
Yeah, possible, but let's face it, all expectations, all eyes on this budget is about how this budget can provide some relief to the middle class, and that could possibly involve tinkering with the tax slabs, possible increase in exemptions, maybe a cut in income tax rates. We don't know, but there is a possibility about the phasing out of the old tax regime, as Shweta was talking about, and potentially offering zero income tax for those earning less than 10 lakh rupees a year. Bear in mind, the budget session of the parliament began on the 31st of January on Friday with a speech by President Draupadi Murmu. That session is divided into two parts. The first runs from the 31st of January to the 13th of February, and the second will begin on the 10th of March and ends on the 4th of April. But Shweta, all eyes on today. This budget, so many expectations, and that's the reason why we have a day-long non-stop coverage with some of the best minds who can break down the budget for us, isn't it, Shweta?
All right, and with that, let's also quickly introduce our panel of guests sitting here right in the studios. Karthik Malhotra, R. Sridharan, Barnik Chitran Moitro. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's kick off this budget coverage. And I want to come to you with the most basic question first, and that is what's weighing in on the minds of people, the common man, the middle class. Karthik, beginning with you, your big expectations from the budget. What are you hoping Nirmala Sitharaman will do? This is not going to be a magic bullet. This is going to be a long
Although we are calling our coverage.
Although we are calling it magic bullet.
But why not? Why do you think it won't be? For all you know, it might just be a magic bullet for the middle class. Honestly, there's a difference between expectations, what you practically expect, and then there's a wish list, right? So I would tend to veer a little in the direction of a wish list, and the wish list would be that you need consumption to take off again, and for consumption to happen, people need more money. It is as simple as that. Now, how will they get more money? Either the government can continue with social sector schemes and provide the rural economy with more money in their hands and for the consumption to take off, or think about us tax-paying urban middle class, middle income people and give us some leeway by way of taxes. But I think this time around, the finance minister will find it a little difficult. It's going to be a tightrope walk, balancing GDP growth, which has been faltering, and managing the fiscal deficit, because for the fiscal deficit, you want to collect more taxes. If you want to collect more taxes, how do you give tax ops?
Right, you have to collect more taxes, at the same time find ways to lessen the tax burden on the middle class. Shri, for once, this budget seems to have a very singular focus. All eyes, the salaried people from across India are waiting with bated breath for this budget, isn't it? Because the talk and social media, you keep listening to about the tax burden, the rising tax burden, and the fact that all of that has resulted in a slowdown of a so-called slowdown of India's GDP rate. It's not at the rates at which it used to be before, and a further slowdown possible in the future. So one is cutting income tax, the other is boosting growth.
So for precisely that reason, Krishna, that you talk about what is to come. So the finance minister is obviously going to present a budget that looks at the external scenario, the fight that's going to happen between the two big giants, global giants, a $30 trillion economy, which is the US, and almost a $20 trillion economy, which is the China. So now, if these two giants are going to be clashing, and there will be collateral damages to economies like us. So I think as these two people throw punches, the finance minister will want to make sure that how does a country like India, even if we take one which is like not aimed at us, but it comes our way, how do we still stand up and stay on the ground? Yeah. So I think that's the macroeconomic strategy that she'll be working out, largely to make sure that as we get into a very uncertain era going ahead, both in terms of tariff, in terms of slowdown, in terms of what the survey also talks about, a fractional economic scenario where walls are going up, countries are starting to look inwards. In that, when the efficiency goes down in the global economy, how does India, keep its growth trajectory still going? So I think those will be some of the key concerns that she'll look at. It'll be nice if, like Karthik said, there is something which is given to the middle class. But I guess if I were the FM, I'd probably err on the side of caution and keep my powder dry for a bigger battle to come rather than expend it at this time.
A bigger battle to come, and that is what we are all expecting and hoping India will be able to stay away from. In fact, the economic survey also points out, as well as the chief economic advisor, Barnik, that this could be an opportunity for India if we were to leverage it in the right ways. Now, on the backdrop of all the geopolitical tensions, the trade war, which is starting today, 1st of Feb, between US, Mexico, what is your big expectation from the budget? How can India avoid falling in the trap of this global, economic slowdown, the trade war that is likely to unfold starting today?
So I think the trade war creates unique opportunities for India. I think we've heard all about the China +1 thesis. It's a big thesis which investors are playing out. I think the opportunity missed over the past 5 years is India has managed to get barely 15%. Some experts argue it may be as low as 10% of all manufacturing which has moved out from China. In fact, if you look at a decadal view of manufacturing, the share of manufacturing in our GDP is probably a percentage lower than before this government came to power 11 years back. So there is a big, I would say, future opportunity for us to use this budget to create the right environment to create jobs. Only if you create jobs and income will the consumption crisis go. I think a middle income tax cut is only a bandage on the wound. It's not going to solve the problem.
Okay, income tax cut is just a bandage on the wound. Let's then take it across to the person who's possibly, preparing that bandage, Nirmala Sitharaman. We have our correspondent standing right outside the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's residence. We have Yash joining us live from over there. Yash, talk to us. What is the mood like over there? Lots of media presence. I can see everybody is waiting for when Nirmala Sitharaman, our Finance Minister, will leave her home premises to come and present the Union Budget, her 8th consecutive.
Well, absolutely, Krishna. In fact, you can see behind me the kind of media presence over there, and all are waiting for Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to actually leave her residence, which is the 15th Safdarjung Road here in the national capital. I'll just give you a quick rundown exactly what happens before the union budget is presented before the parliament. Well, first she'll leave from her residence and then she'll go towards the North Block. There will be a photo op there, and after that photo op, she will be going to the president for a customary go-ahead for the union budget, and in fact then she'll reach the parliament premises. There also we'll see a photo op there, and then at around 11 a.m. is the time when the union budget 2025 will be presented. So it's a hectic day for the finance minister today, and all eyes will be on her. Interestingly, this time around, one thing I would like to point out that I think it's never happened that a union budget is being presented so close to any elections, and perhaps though the Election Commission has made it very clear that no announcement, no Delhi-specific announcement could be made due to the moral code of conduct. So perhaps what we are eyeing this time around is that in fact if you talk to any person, any commoner, what they say is that they only care about two things. The number one is the tax cut, and the second is about the long-term capital gains tax or the short-term capital gains tax. So we have to look onto that aspect, exactly what transpires for the middle class, because the middle class have been waiting for a very long time for a relief from the union government, and let's see how things pan out. But around 8:45 is the time when we are expecting Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to leave her residence.